For best friends since way back when. Steel town roots in a story to spin. Pittsburgh streets in our bones. The four best ones, the four best hearts. This month we live it
Welcome to the Four Best podcast, where four best friends talk about the best part of their month and go into just general conversation. So I am one of your hosts. My name is Isaac Scott, and I'm also joined by Mr. Matt Kravitz.
Ahoy.
And I also have Sergey Blackyor.
Aye, aye, Captain.
And rounding us out with our four best, Mr. Nathaniel Thumper Kravitz.
Hello, and happy to be here.
So this is our first episode of the Four Best podcasts. We decided to put this together as a way to just talk about some of the great things that are going on in our lives, both for ourselves and also for any of the listeners that would want to tune in and hear about it. And so we are four best friends that grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania together. We have been friends now for, over 30 years at this point. So even though we are now no longer all in Pittsburgh, we're spread out across the country, we still maintain a pretty close-knit, tight connection. And so we thought throughout this podcast, this would be a way for us to just come together and be intentional about connecting and talking about what stuff is going on in our lives. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to kick things off. And we are going to start off from the bottom with Mr. Nathaniel Thumper Kravitz. Going to welcome him to the mic and say, hey, Nate, why don't you tell us about the best thing that is going on in your life over the last month?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things to choose from, but trying to think of something particularly interesting is I have really enjoyed this past month football starting up again. Football is a game that I've enjoyed watching for a long time, but not when I was really young. I started enjoying watching football as a high schooler by going to the Oregon State University Beaver football games with my dad. And it's a game that's kind of complicated to understand and figure out. Immediately started forming really great memories around watching a team. And at that point, that college team was also just starting to be very good. So really enjoyable. And over the years, I've still kind of followed up with the Beavers and watching them. But this year, I've really been paying attention to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's a team that I've obviously supported since living in Pittsburgh, but really started to pay attention to in the last couple of years. And this is the first year that I really paid attention to not just kind of what happened in the draft, but to more news coming out of preseason and training camps. There was a lot of drama around the Steelers. Just touching on that a little bit, it included, are we going to have a quarterback? Who's our quarterback going to be? We changed a lot of players. There was a massive overhaul of the roster. And all of that is turning into something that presents as possibly exciting. And then in this past month, the first three preseason games happened. In one way, it's disappointing because they didn't play some of these new, exciting players that they've got. But they're playing a lot of guys that I was paying attention to since the draft happened. And it's really fun to really get to know these guys, some of their history, and I just hadn't paid attention so much. I can understand the reason that there's some people who just really watch their teams, really watch a lot of the NFL, and follow people all year round. Because obviously there's 6 months where there really isn't anything happening as far as actual games. Getting to know players, their history, listening to them on the podcasts, because several players have podcasts. I've been listening to Ben Roethlisberger's podcast and Cam Hayward's, and it's really enjoyable and makes you really excited for the year. A lot of buildup.
Yeah, Nate. So I read a little bit about what's going on with the Steelers. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, I guess, their preseason in general, because I haven't really been paying attention. I know there's a big trade for Metcalf back in the spring, and then okay, great, we have a strong wide receiver core. We got Metcalf as our number one, we got Pickens as our number two, and then we didn't have Pickens anymore, and now I don't know if there's a number two receiver. There was all that QB drama. It's kind of have you seen anything that is out there that makes you feel this could be a good year for the Steelers, or is this just going to be another one of those 10-8, they'll make the playoffs and as wild card and then bow out again to random team?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot to be seen. Let me start by talking about the defense because that's where the real excitement is that we are, once again, a team with an awesome defense. There was some drama around re-signing TJ Watt. There's some drama around a new contract extension that Cameron Hayward wants, but he's going to end up playing. People are going to be afraid of our team. We've gotten some veterans from other teams that we had join us this year and last year that make us look really scary. And that is awesome. We even have a little bit of depth in our secondary that maybe we hadn't had in the past. We had a couple draft picks that are looking really good. I'm really excited to see what Hayden Wilson does, who started last year, our first round draft pick, who's going to be out for the first few games because of a knee injury. But he came from the University of Oregon, Derek Harmon. He has a lot of potential to mess things up on the line. So those things are what's really going to be exciting. And I think Steelers has always been a defensive centric team. And so seeing them build that up, getting the steel curtain back out there is pretty exciting. On offense, we've struggled for years now. Bringing on Aaron Rodgers is exciting and arguably an upgrade from what we were looking at since we lost both of last year's quarterbacks. But we don't know until we see. He's 41 or 42 years old. He looks stiff when I see him moving around, but apparently he can still throw that ball really well. And he understands the game really well. Our receiver core is not very strong. We have DK Metcalf, and then number two, is a guy I like, Calvin Austin III, or Roman Wilson, it's his first year really playing because he was injured last year as a rookie. There's not a lot there. But what we should be excited about is our tight end core, which might be the best tight end core in the NFL right now with Pat Freiermuth. Muth, yes. Darnell Washington, who's just a massive human being. And Ben Roethlisberger likes to call him Mount Washington. I love it. And then we picked up Jonnu Smith in a trade also towards the end of the offseason here. And that's exciting. And we still always have Connor Hayward, who's everyone talks about as just being a really solid football player. Running back situation does not look awesome. Jaylen Warren, I think, is pretty solid, but maybe not incredible. He played a little bit in one preseason game and he slipped several times. We'll see how he does. The offense, if they can be good enough, then the defense might carry us. As we know, we went to a football game, right?
Yeah, that's right, Nate. I do remember that. That was for your 40th birthday, and we saw the Steelers take on the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta.
I don't know if you remember, but the defense outscored the offense in that game.
Yeah,
I remember
2
that.
touchdowns.
The game started off with an Alex Highsmith. Maybe it might have been the first or second play after the kickoff, and Alex Highsmith had an interception for a touchdown. And we later on in the game, TJ Watt had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And I think that they scored 17 total that game, maybe. Defense will win games.
Do you find that, as you get into football more, as Kate is 13, 14 years old now? Is he getting more into it as well now? Or what's that like?
Well, here's what started last year is because Gabe is definitely into the Steelers and football. None of us ever played football. When it comes down to the real playing, I can't look, at a coach and criticize him and say, oh, I wish that they had ran this play or that play. I'm not that good. I don't understand intricacies of football super well. I understand some things. I can understand some good plays. I never played. I'm not a total pro or expert on this. What we've done is we're watching the game as the family is starting to figure out. They all come and congregate around the living room now. Even if they're doing something else, the whole family's in there putting on Steelers gear. I pass out the terrible towel so that they're ready. And when they see me jump up and hoot and a holler and wave that towel, they start waving it too. And so it has become a family thing, and they look forward to us all kind of sitting around the TV and watching the game.
I appreciate you sharing that, Nate. It's exciting to kick off the football season, and we'll look forward to continuing to track it kind of as we go throughout. Just say go Steelers.
Go Steelers.
Go Steelers. Here we go.
All right. Well, thanks, Nate. So that was our first of 4 best. Shift on up to Mr. Mac Kravitz. That's about your best.
I guess I'm going to hit us with a little bit of sad news so I can talk about why this was such a nice experience. My aunt Carol passed away recently. She had a fall. When you're older, having a fall can be pretty significant. She just ended up having some complications that followed and passed away at a not too old of an age, but it was pretty shocking. That's the bad news part. The kind of fun thing that happened was, as a result of this, we had a large family Zoom meeting that ended up happening. I got called in out of the blue by my mom, and she's like, "Hey, come on over. We're doing this big Zoom with like everyone." And I went on. I saw my cousins that lived the furthest away from me all at once. I saw my cousins Sarah and Gila and Aaron. Saw Sarah's two kids very briefly, Aaron's daughter, Gila's two sons, saw Paul and Gwen in Japan, and then like all my aunts and uncles, and we saw Jason down in Florida. Just getting to see all these people, like I rarely see them, haven't seen any of them since my wedding. I haven't seen some of them since Sarah's wedding back when I was in college. It's just really fun to like see them, see how great they look, see how healthy everyone is, see the smiling faces, the great attitudes. I could tell just the experience was making my uncle feel pretty good. Just having Sarah and Gila were with him at his house. I think it just is really nice for him to get that extra love and that attention, help him deal with that transition of losing someone he's been with for his whole life. And just for me, I got to see people that I love.
Wow, that's awesome, Mac. This was in response to your aunt passing away that they decided to have this call, or what kind of prompted it?
I think that was the real driving factor. Like, we'd never do this normally. It's just, Sarah and Gila were with him. I'm sure it was because of that. And then the idea to bring all the family together, do this meeting, I'm sure was really prompted by that loss. So it's just really cool to get to see everyone.
Are you thinking maybe this becoming more common occurrence for you all?
Yeah, we were talking about doing that.
You know what? This is great that we're starting this conversation as our family and as that cousin group, especially, and the aunts and the uncles. My wife Heidi and I have been talking about, when are we going to have that again? She loves to get together with the Kravitzes because everyone's married, right? And so now the fear is, hey, are we not going to start getting together again until funerals? And so we've talked about it like, hey, we need to probably organize something. It's a family reunion or maybe Zoom meetings, which we had during COVID when Uncle David was giving us some family history about our grandparents and some things that he had just found over the years of doing his family tree research and genealogy research, which was really great. And I keep thinking we got to have that again. And so this is a great motivator to hear about this and start thinking about planning something. I know that it's a reminder also, I'm going to be in Florida in January, that I was hoping I got to contact Sarah about maybe trying to have lunch with her family.
Everyone that was on that meeting said, we love doing this. Let's do this again. So I expect us to start doing it a little bit more frequently. It's going to all fall on Sarah because she's the great organizer. I don't know why, but she is.
There's always one.
It will be really great. I think family reunion somewhere would be kind of cool sometime too.
It would, but it's hard. Talking about this just for context is how far apart everyone is, right? Just as you were talking there were some people in Canada over by Prince Edward Island. There's people over at Yellowknife, Canada, which is about as far away as you can get and still be in North America. There are people then in Pennsylvania and people in Japan.
Yep.
And I don't know if there were other family from the West Coast on there either, but obviously there's West Coast.
Nancy and Jeff were on. So it was bad.
Oh, yeah. So there we go, from Central California area.
I don't think I ever knew you guys had family in Japan. Like, that to me is, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but that's really cool.
You didn't
know
realize
we
we
were
were part Japanese?
Well, I knew now, and konnichiwa.
High five, Mac, for saying that to him, like both of us together. Yeah. We are not part Japanese, but our cousin Paul, who you maybe recall from my wedding, and
yes,
he was at my wedding too.
Okay, yeah, he is stationed out there with Lockheed Martin.
Yep, yeah. Military stuff. They've been out there for
a long time,
4 or 5 years. It's been a long time that they've been out there. Yeah.
I don't think they plan on leaving. They have grown quite fond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, geographically, it sounds like you guys need to do your family reunion in Hawaii.
True.
I think it's maybe BC's.
Oh.
which is a very nice place. I've been there before. Yeah.
Yeah, that could work too.
They did say like the next in-person reason to get together would be Aaron's daughter Cassidy is getting married, I think.
Oh, okay.
So you know that person you have no relationship with other than familial is getting married in Alberta somewhere.
Well, you're mistaken because I do believe that Facebook recommends her as a friend quite frequently, even though I've never met her and wasn't sure exactly how she was related. So, but thank you for clarifying that.
Well, now you know.
That was a great one, Mac. Appreciate you sharing that. All right. We'll move on down to our third best with Mr. Sergey Blackhor.
Well, my best kind of goes back, I would say probably maybe over a year now, was going through
For the last month.
Well,
Yeah,
I got to start.
be clear. Okay.
This quest started a year ago,
Okay.
and
All right.
it's come
Say,
to
leave it to you to not follow the rules.
We could have taken a bet on who was it going to follow.
Yeah.
So for me, the reason I mention the past is because I think where I'm at right now is a result of that, like many of you, But I was feeling like, I don't know, pretty jaded, pretty upset about a lot of things that are going on in the world and thinking about what exactly can I do as a person in my position to kind of like get out of that mood, out of that feeling. And I know at work, and I'm not going to go into that, there's a lot of people that promote some of the stuff that I think, Isaac, you've picked up on over the years. Like I have a really very empathy focused mindset. I really want to try to help people better themselves, to find ways to help them feel included, make them feel like they belong. Like that's really important to me at the core of who I am. And that's something I've discovered more and more of. So anyway, to get to the thing that happened in the past month that I'm really proud of is that, last year I joined the PTO board and it was difficult. It was something that I wasn't a part of before. I had no experience. Dropping in, people don't give you an orientation for things that are volunteer-like, at least not always in my case. And I kind of felt like I was overwhelmed and I didn't know if I fit in. But I'm really glad I stuck it out because I was on our first PTO meeting this year, went into the school. We do this every month. We talk about all the typical stuff, the budget, the programs, all of the different events. And something that I started last year was virtual PTO attendance. Most parents, they can't just jump into a session, come to the school, sit in there for 90 minutes. Most people work. And I really wanted to make sure we could connect with the community and let people be able to join in anywhere they're at, whether they're working from home or they happen to be driving in. And that's something I started. And honestly, we'd only get like 2 or 3 people last year, maybe 4. Today we had over 10, which I think is for me is like a really big success story. And multiple people like thanked me in the virtual chat and afterwards to say, hey, thanks for taking the time to set something up like this. And it hadn't been done before. We are in 2025 and you would just think, oh yeah, it seems so easy that somebody would just host a virtual session and grab a camera and record, but things don't happen until somebody does it. And it felt really rewarding to hear that. Something as simple as that can help people kind of learn about what's going on in the community. How can they possibly contribute to the stuff that's happening at school? What events are occurring? Something I've kept building up on both at work, and I'm not going to talk about that one here today because I think I'll have something for next month, is the importance of like finding things that are happening in your area that you have control over that make you feel a little bit more connected. That's something that's been big for me.
Cool to see the success story that you've had kind of coming in and being able to meet that need, right? And something that PTO probably doesn't think of, right? Where they're just kind of like, hey, we did our part. We posted the meeting. It's your fault if you can't show up. But being able to make it convenient for those who maybe can't make it in this day and age of technology. Mac was just talking about being able to connect with family all over the world. You're connecting people just in your local community that's convenient for them. So I think it's fantastic that you have that eye for convenience. Has anybody come up to you afterwards and have they noticed that change, utilizing that change? I know you're saying you're getting attendance, but has anybody approached you personally about making that shift?
Yeah. That's what surprised me today was that there was 2 people on. And, when people are dropping off, some people will drop off early. But no, people stayed on and said, hey, thanks for making this option available to me from where I'm at. And somebody else typed in, like, I really appreciate this. And there's small things, right? But like the more and more I think about it, it is those small little actions that we can take in our local community. Like I know, like Nate, like you are doing a lot of stuff in your church community. Every time I talk to you, like I got a church thing going on. I can't play, Helldivers or whatever. And same thing for you, Isaac. I'm sure that there's lots of stuff that you do in your community and whatnot. Again, it's all these little things that bind and tied us that may not seem that important, but when we take that action, it really helps to make you feel like you're a part of something. And that's been really important to me. So thanks for letting me share that.
I want to ask one of your PTO questions here. How'd that lady do with her run for the higher board level?
So this is interesting, right? This is how you get into the political level. You start at the PTO school board level, and now we have somebody who was our president last year. She's running for the North Allegheny board, and that's going to happen this November. We will find out. But I think like that is how you do build up consensus. People know your name because you're constantly emailing hundreds of parents. Every time I email parents, I'm like, did I type in everything correctly? Like, did these links work? I'm very aware of when you make mistakes because you go back and you look at your sent email and you're like, darn it.
Is that the North Allegheny School Board?
I think she's running for the North Allegheny School Board. Like we would vote formally in November for the school board members. I think that's just the next level up is that if you want to, she's not running with anybody that I know, but I think this was her way to work up. So it's kind of cool. It's exciting to see people do this kind of stuff.
I love this one, Serge, because it also tells us a lot about you and things that I think are obvious to people who know you. Things that like you are so inclusive and want to make sure that people are able to have a say, that people are able to be a part of something. It's just a using your strength of like, yes, I want to get people in and be a part of this. And I think that you're really good at that and really good at making people feel comfortable and wanting to be active in something and getting excited about it. The fact that you're able to use kind of these skills, also some organizational skills, and just that the riz, as I think the kids are saying, the charisma of bringing people in, creating something bigger within that community that is just going to strengthen the things that your kids are a part of and probably the future also is just really great. And so that's so fun to hear about and see.
Yeah, that means a lot to me, Nate. Thanks for saying that. Thank you all.
All right, Isaac.
Cool. Well, thank you, Serge.
Wrap us up.
Yeah, let me wind us down. So for my best is that we've had a lot of stuff going on over the last month. As you guys know, I have two kids, a 19-year-old son and a 15-year-old daughter. And one's a sophomore in college and one's a sophomore in high school. Living down in Florida, we actually start school the beginning of August. So my daughter's been back in school now for pretty much the month of August. My son has started back up college in Daytona State. Just to kind of brag on them a little bit is I couldn't be more proud of the two of them. My son went to Grove City College last year and started mechanical engineering and quickly decided that, hey, that's really not what he wanted to go do. Came back and started getting into a welding program down here at Daytona State. He went to the program, did it over the summer, and fell in love with it and really is just soaring through the program, like to the point where he's helping other students out, he's helping the instructor out, and he's, getting his certifications, and it's just really found his niche. Personally, there's nothing that can make you more proud than seeing somebody truly live out their gifts and work hard and see it really pay off for them. So couldn't be more proud of him. So he's halfway done with the welding program. He should wrap that up here at the end of the year. And then he wants to take that and go and work on the pipeline and do hardcore welding out in the middle of nowhere. He's got an idea and a vision of what he wants to go do and what he wants to go accomplish and really kind of move on to this next phase of his life. So just super, super proud of him. And then the other piece is with my daughter, Lydia, who's a sophomore in high school. She is very into competitive volleyball. She really kind of took off her freshman year of high school. She kind of dabbled with it previously, but then her freshman year of high school, she made the varsity team. And as a freshman, she was actually starting. And then she went and did like a competitive club team that they traveled across the country. Really is just got a knack for it. And so coming at the end of the school year, she went to a small little Christian school down here in Florida. And through a series of different events, she was just like, I think I want to try something different. And so she actually decided to go to a large public school right in our area because she hit it off with the volleyball coach there and was just like, I think I want to just try something different. And so we're like, hey, if that's what you want to do, we'll give it a shot. And so she made that decision and took that leap and went over to this new school and, tried out for the volleyball team and made it immediately onto it. And so she's a starting center for the Merritt Island Mustangs down here in Florida. What was so cool about that is that, she went from a school that was, population like 700 in K through 12 to now a school that's like population 1,500, so it's just a massive jump in school population. what was so neat about it is that getting into this volleyball team it was like an absolute blessing because the volleyball team has like completely come around her. And now she's got this like just core group of friends almost immediately. She has like a senior who showed her around and showed her all her classes. She has a couple other girls on our team, like one's a junior who is just like, taking her around and meeting her at football games and, helping her out after school and stuff like that. And it's just really have come around her and made it just almost like a seamless transition. Obviously not easy to start new, but she is really just jumping by leaps and bounds. Plus really fun to watch her play at this level. And the Merritt Island Mustangs so far are undefeated in the regular season. So they've beat every team that they've gone up against so far. And so they're off to a really strong start over these past few weeks. So really excited to see her continue to live that out and see how things work out throughout this year.
That's really awesome, dude. I want to rewind just a little bit because you were talking about the travel club. And I think it's really worthwhile to just call out that club team. You're up in Wisconsin, or is it Chicago?
Yeah.
Just the national championships?
Yeah, so really glad you asked about that. So first off, Lydia actually injured her knee in a freak ski accident a little over a year and a half ago now. And she injured her knee, tore her meniscus, and had to have it repaired. Last year, her freshman year, she was coming off the bench cold, like hadn't done anything, and really kind of rehab, pushed through it, and really just kind of took off. So I think that was really impressive. And then she went into this competitive season. Her club team made it to nationals, and that they played down in Dallas, Texas. They finished kind of middle of the pack, but I mean, they're playing up against some of the best in the country. So it was really kind of neat to see that. And through her kind of club season, she actually caught the eye of a coach at the Team Florida All-Star group. So they have, each state has these like all-star teams that they kind of put together for volleyball. And she was invited to try out with, 300 other girls who were in the state of Florida for this all-star team, and went through the tryouts and originally didn't make the team. But then she got a call maybe a month or two after the tryouts, and somebody ended up getting injured who was selected. They like broke their finger or something like that and weren't able to go. And she was actually next in line. Pretty incredible if you think about it, like somebody who went through this whole knee rehab, went through this club season, and then tried out with 300 other girls. They picked the top 12 and she was like the 13th to have one drop out, and she was able to go in. And then, so she went up to Wisconsin and represented the state of Florida in the 15U All-Star Games, which is an international tournament because they'll bring in teams from all over the country and some international teams from outside of the country, really just playing now the best in, the country and beyond. Really neat. And their team came in second overall. So really just an incredible feat for them to accomplish.
A huge accomplishment.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It was really something.
Yeah. So just like making that big transition from like the school sizes gotta be so nerve wracking. Was that tough on you and Rachel just to like have that sort of shift? Because I know both of you went to like a small Christian school too. So like to have her go into like the public school is like a new domain for you to be navigating too. How is that?
I think it is. I mean, first off, like Lydia is incredibly driven. She's incredibly hardworking, incredibly smart, and super charismatic, right? And just has a magnetic personality. So there's no worry that she's going to be successful, whether it's academics, whether it's sports, whether it's social, like she's going to thrive. And it was more making that big leap from like, being a big fish in a small pond, being a small fish in a big lake. So it's really kind of that shift of like losing yourself and not having that rudder. And so that's where I think seeing how the volleyball team has really come around her and how intentional the coach is, because the coach of the volleyball team is actually a teacher at the school. And so she's very integrated into the school. She's been doing it for 23 years. She's just incredible. And she's been doing like team building things, like, like they've been going out and they'll like have like a family day at the beach, and they'll all go out and, just hang out and take pictures and swim in the ocean. Or they went and did like a ropes course where they're, doing like, team building trust stuff. There's very intentional work to make sure that they are building that lasting relationship with each other, which also builds trust on the court. And it carries over, into her school days, as well. So I think change is always hard, especially with your kids, because you want, shield them and protect them. But, we're at the stage where it's like, hey, they're becoming independent and they need to be able to step out and make their own decisions and be able to kind of press forward. So it's just cool to see them fly. right? And see them really take off and be successful.
Your kids always impress me, Isaac. I feel like every time I look at them, it's like they're just a representation of resilience when I think about that word. It's like you have moved so many times over and over and over in your life. And people talk about how challenging that is to kids. And you and Rachel have both been such strong parents that you've been able to get them through all of that. And maybe they were really good at it, but just want to say, like, I want to call you out. Particularly what I thought was interesting was you talked about Isaiah. And you had mentioned that he had spent, a year at college and decided that maybe that wasn't the route that he wanted to go in. In my mind, that sticks out to me because, I think traditionally parents have certain expectations that, hey, this is what you need to do in order to be successful. You are on an engineering degree path. This is how you will build a comfortable life. This is what you need to do. And then you can decide if you want to do welding. So I have to give you a lot of credit, I think, for being able to be like open and supportive when you're making such a switch. And your son's strengths, and obviously you've spoken to them here, but I just think that that's so cool that we don't have to get locked into this is how things have to be, but there are many other different paths. And then knowing that your son is going to have the confidence to say, hey, when this happened in my dad's life, 20, 30, he'll talk about it highly to say, my parents were there for me. They talked me through the pros and cons, because I know you do that all the time, Isaac, of like, here's the pros and cons of not going to college, but then you let them make the decision. So I just think that's really cool parenting.
I appreciate that call out, and I appreciate you painting in that light. I'll tell you, I wish that was all completely true. I mean, obviously there's a transition period where it's like, hey, you're choosing something different. What's your long-term plan? And I think, what's hard at this phase is when we were growing up, right? And, when we're in high school, we're going into college and we're starting our lives, we think we have it all figured out. Knowing what I know now, it's just like, man, I would love to have known some of these things, right? And like know what the real world is like. Even like things like I talk to Isaiah all the time about, something as simple as having a degree, right? Because it's like there's such a negative connotation that's out there in the world about, college is a waste of money and, you should just go into the workforce and get a trade or do something like that, which is all true. Get a certification, do something that makes you special and sets you apart. But what's neat to me about college and kind of being on the manager side of things is that it helps make you a high functioning member of society. Not that you can't be otherwise, but it helps refine you. It helps you think through things critically. It helps you learn how to work as part of a team, teaches you how to use technology. It just makes you somebody who can kind of fit into any of those situations, no matter what's kind of thrown at you. So it makes you adaptable and makes you very successful. So I think, we've had a lot of discussions about that because it's like, hey, a welding program is a certificate program, which is a specialty, which is awesome, but then it's like, hey, what else could you go do beyond that? Could you take those credits and go transfer them and go get, a bachelor's degree or something like that off of it, which is only going to help continue to open doors for you as you kind of go forward in life. I think it's a constant learning piece. And the reason I bring that up, Serge, is because I would love to just be like they were hit with a magic wand and they're just making their own decisions. But it's like, sometimes it's hard when it's like they're going a certain way and it's like, I don't know that that's the best way. And you can share that, but ultimately they have to make their own decision. It's their lives, it's their decision. The best you can do is advise them and then hope and pray for the best that it's all going to work out for them.
And I just want one last comment, and I'll let Nate ask a question if he has one. But like, you took such and this always amazes me to this day. I think I talk about it with Matt, probably have mentioned it with Nate. It's like you've taken the unconventional path to where you are now, and you have succeeded beyond anything that I could have imagined in terms of like how far. I mean, I'm always impressed by all of us where we've gone, but just I think you especially, Isaac, is your path has been so interesting, and you've continued to grow, and you've been mentored, and you've been open to this, and of course, your strength and your faith and everything else has like contributed to who you are, which makes you a very special person. I'm just always impressed by that, and then the way that you're able to pass that on now to your children. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I would actually redirect it to, I have an incredible wife that makes that possible. So there's no success that I would have if it wouldn't have been for her companionship, her support, and her parenting and leadership. I mean, that's the honest truth. I mean, you talked about moving and how great the kids turned out. That's because Rachel was there with them at home, pouring into them and making sure that, they knew what they needed to do to be successful. Not to say that I wasn't there, but when you're moving and in a job like mine, it's quality versus quantity. she has always been that just solid rock and made sure that everything was held together and everything was consistent. Again, appreciate the call out, but can't do without a support system. And we all know that, right? Because we wouldn't be the men we are today in the phases of life that we are if it wasn't for our support system that we have.
Truth.
Absolutely.
Well, just my quick thoughts, Isaac, are just kind of bringing it back to what you originally said. All this other stuff is great. And obviously I brag on you to other people about your story also, but seeing our kids have adversity and face it and do a good job is like so rewarding. I got a hunch that as we continue to do this podcast, that a lot of times we'll be talking about parenting and fatherhood. Just, I think we're built for it. There's an incredible amount of joy in seeing our kids do well, even if it really doesn't give us anything beyond that joy of seeing them do well. You know, I guess we like watching entertaining things, so we like seeing people win. And obviously, I think your daughter's awesome. I enjoyed watching the videos that are posted of her playing volleyball. I've already determined that I will find a way to go to the Olympics to watch her when she makes it. I'm willing to do that. Like financially, it's going to be a strain, but we'll figure it out. But we'll do that. Frankly, actually, if she plays in college, maybe we'll go and watch. I'm just excited for everything that she's doing, and that I think that you and Rachel are great at parenting and encouraging that. And it's exciting to see. So that's a great one to share.
Appreciate that. This is a great kind of first episode, you know, for everybody out there who's tuning in, which for the most part is probably going to be our family who will take interest in this, even if it's pity interest, but they'll probably be the ones who take interest in this. This was an awesome first episode. For the three other bests on this call, really just appreciate this, and really do want to give a shout out to Mac, who actually came up with this idea. And it was a random idea that he had around, you know, getting together and just talking about the kind of four best parts, you know, of our lives and things that are going on, and just as a way to kind of share with each other, but also just shine a little bit of light and a little bit of positivity, because there's a lot of good that's happening out there, and we oftentimes forget about that when we're in the throes of everything. So kudos to you, Mac. Really great idea. I think this is going to be an awesome podcast as we continue to build it out and continue to talk through this each month. So with that, this is going to wrap up our first episode. And so I'll encourage each of you who are listening to tune in on the 4th of every month at 4:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
By the way, this was September 5th, 2025.
On
Bye,
the
guys.
Four Best Podcast.
For best friends since way back when.